Hi guys, it's Tamara. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being with me today in this video. We're going to start the month of May off by continuing our conversation about relationships and family relationships with the foundation of trauma-informed care. There were some topics that I didn't get a chance to talk about last month, so I'm going to sneak those in to our May videos. But for today's topic, we're going to talk about the 12 situations that a lot of people fail to realize are traumatic. Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump in. I encourage you, if you are not subscribed, to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you're new to my channel, we welcome you. I think that you're going to get a lot out of this channel, and I'm hoping that we can continue to build topics and continue to build community on this channel. I probably mentioned this in just about every video that we do, but the channel is growing hourly, and I think that's so awesome. Some days are slower than others, but for the most part, it's been on the upcline, so I think that's great. So I welcome you to subscribe. So the benefits for you in today's video is that you're going to learn about the 12 situations that are actually more traumatic than we think, and I want to define some of these things. So let's just start with the number one challenge or issue that a lot of people think is not traumatic, and that is child abuse. A lot of people believe that child abuse is severe, right? They think that you should have marks on your body and bruises on your body and all kind of broken bones and things like that. And that is not true. Child abuse can be anything involving an act of irresponsible and careless intentional behavior, or it can be a failure to act. So let me give you an example of that. So let's say that you are a 9-year-old boy and your mom is always working. She leaves you at home with your stepdad. Your stepdad takes it upon himself to verbally abuse you, to call you stupid and idiot and fool, and you should have never been born. And, you know, my relationship with your mom would have been better if you weren't involved. That's emotional abuse and harassment. It's also psychological abuse as well, because it's causing the kid to think about himself in negative ways. And it's also causing the kid to feel like he's responsible for your unhappiness as the stepdad. So that's emotional abuse. Let's say that he takes it a little bit further and he refuses to feed you for 3 days, that your mom is out of town. That is now maltreatment. Let's also say that he decides to lock you in your room, you know, absolutely get rid of everything in your room, things on your walls, all your toys, all your books, and all you're allowed to do is just sit there and look at bare walls. That is abuse, right? It may not be physical, it may not be marks on his body, but it's marks on his heart, his soul, and his mind. Child abuse. The other thing under the umbrella of child abuse would be child neglect. That's neglecting intentionally to feed, clothe, or take care of other basic needs. Okay, so all of those things are abusive. A lot of people believe that that is not a traumatic situation, but it is. The next thing is domestic violence. Domestic violence is obviously traumatic. It doesn't matter at what level it is. It could be mild, moderate to severe. It is very traumatizing for kids to stand by and watch. There's a such thing known as vicarious trauma, and that kind of trauma is watching somebody else go through a traumatic situation. That is traumatic, all right? The next thing is an unexpected death or murder. If you have somebody in your family or a close friend or a colleague who has been murdered, you didn't have to really know that person very well. You also, you know, don't have to have seen any red flags or heard anything, but just the simple fact that this person is close to you and was murdered is enough to traumatize you. Again, vicarious trauma, vicarious trauma. The other thing is physical illness. Physical illness can be traumatizing. Let's say you have a terrible back or knee problem and you can't walk. That is traumatizing. About 11, maybe 10 or 11 years ago, I was just starting off in college and I had a terrible, terrible back injury. I don't know how it happened. I used to do like a lot of Zumba and a lot of aerobics and a lot of activities. So I couldn't tell exactly where the pain was coming from, but my back was so bad that it had my blood pressure up, my heart rate was up, I couldn't walk, I couldn't clothe myself. It was terrible. Was it traumatizing to me? Absolutely, because I you know, every time I get in a situation where I have a little bit of a pinch in my back or a little bit of pain, I'm worried that I'm going to be back in the hospital with IVs hooked up to me, and I just don't want to go through that again. So chronic physical illness can be traumatizing, especially if you've had a bad medical situation where there was a medication that you were allergic to, or whatever the case. Medical challenges and physical elements can be traumatizing. Okay, the next thing is migration and immigration. I think that's also challenging, traumatic for most people. If you're an individual that's coming over from Canada, Venezuela, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, wherever you're coming from into the United States, it's a difficult situation for you because you have to deal with immigration laws. You also have to deal with being put into the mold of being a criminal because you want a better life. The individual also has to be kind of marginalized, right, into this group of illegals, and that is traumatizing in and of itself. I don't know if you've seen the recent news coverage on migration and immigration into this country, but there's women and babies trying to get over here, and they're climbing fences and they're climbing walls, and their clothing is dirty, and they're put into like this holding place where there's no privacy, there's beds everywhere, there's no independence or freedom. That is a traumatic situation. It boxes you into a category. It also marginalizes you and separates you in society. That is traumatic, especially for kids. Okay, I think that's very important. Loss of employment is another traumatic situation, right? If you own a home, if you own a car, if you own a business, the loss of your income is your livelihood. It's your survival. It covers your basic needs. So when that is gone or it's dwindling down, you're likely to panic. It's really difficult to embrace a loss of employment or a reduction in finances, because who do you turn to? What if you're from a lower income family? You really do need that income to stay afloat. So that is also traumatic. Prenatal mental illness can also be traumatic. Women who are pregnant and carrying babies, but seeing and hearing things, being delusional, being very suicidal and depressed, that can also be traumatic. It can also be traumatic for the spouse. So let's say you're a husband to a woman who's bringing a baby into the world, and she starts hearing and seeing things, and she's very psychotic and really unable to get a grasp on reality. You not only have to deal with her illness, but now you have to worry about the baby that she's carrying. And so that's a huge culture shock, right? It's a culture shock becoming a parent in the first place. And it gets even worse when mental illness is involved. The other thing is adoption or foster care. That's another situation. Being fostered by parents who are mentally and physically unhealthy. Being fostered or adopted by parents who have their own mental health and personality disorders. That can be difficult. Imagine being adopted or fostered by a sociopath. Imagine being adopted and fostered by somebody who's a narcissist. It's really difficult, and it's very traumatizing for the kids. The next one is a miscarriage or a divorce, and this is our last one. I think a miscarriage and a divorce has, in both of those categories, some level of expectation. And so when that expectation isn't met and there's a monkey wrench thrown into the middle of it, it can be traumatizing. A miscarriage, after buying baby clothes and cribs and telling everybody and having a baby shower, is a huge disappointment. Having to deal with the physiological reaction of a miscarriage is also something that's pretty traumatizing as well. There's for lack of a better word, there's blood, and there's sometimes remnants of a fetus. An abortion is also that, right? It's usually a form of a fetus that looks like it was being formed into a human. It almost looks like a little alien sometimes. All of those things are very traumatizing for women to deal with. We can also add in their divorce, right? A divorce that included domestic violence or physical or sexual abuse, rape, all of that, child abuse, child neglect, child mistreatment, that's in the middle of that divorce, that can be traumatizing as well. If you have a situation that came to mind during this video that may be traumatic, I encourage you to post that down in the comment section below. I'm sure I missed some things, but these are the main challenges and difficulties that we face that are traumatizing. So if you have anything else that might be traumatizing or you think may be traumatizing, I encourage you to post it below. Thank you so much for being with me in this video today. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up if it was helpful to you. I will see you again on Friday with another video. I'm going to actually be out at a conference for the next week, so you're going to see a couple videos that I recorded, pre-recorded for you. All right, I'll see you soon.